What's going on, everybody? I'm Aaron Atwell, and you're watching Story Over Everything.
You're so cool. Got everyone mesmerized. High school jewel. You're the curse now and the prize. Always on the same.
In today's episode, we'll be talking about shooting to edit. That's what I like to call it. And I've got 7 things I want to lay out for you of how to do it and why it's the best way to do things. First, a quick explainer on what shooting to edit actually means. The first thing you need to know when shooting to edit is what gear to use. My recommendation, and my advice that I usually give people, is to just take your camera. Start with just the camera. If the story needs something else, if you get to a point in the day where the story needs additional equipment, then pull it out. But by using too much equipment too soon before the story needs it, then you get into wasting your time. And time is valuable when you're trying to be creative, especially at a live event, with real people. Okay, you don't have time to waste when you're at a live event. Keeping your gear simple really gives you the time and freedom that you need to be more creative. So number 1 is to only use gear that serves the story. If it doesn't serve the story, put it back in your car, put it back in your box, put it back in your Pelican case, wherever you got it from, lay it down. Okay, we're creating a story here, and that's what shooting to edit is all about. Number 2 is camera settings. What camera settings should you use when you're shooting to edit? If you're shooting with the edit in mind, you need to shoot at the proper frame rate, that you're going to use a certain frame rate in post. Use it in your shooting too. That way it matches up. I always recommend shooting in 24 frames a second. Why? Because it just looks the best to me. The motion looks the most realistic to what my eyes can see. 30 frames a second looks a little soap opera-ish. 60 frames a second looks too action sport kind of feel. So what you want to decide is when you're shooting these moments, do I want this to be in real time or do I want it to be slow? If you want it to be in real time, shoot at 24. Okay, this minimizes your post work, and that's the whole point here is, like I said, to make it more efficient, faster, and tell a better story. So anytime when someone's speaking and you can hear the audio, any main events you're going to want to do in 24, okay, because the couple's going to want to see that, or the client's going to want to see that in normal speed later on. If you're shooting moments that you think may have additional impact if they were slowed down, then shoot in 60 frames a second, or shoot in 120. If your camera does it, you can shoot in 240. For this kind of thing, apart from shooting the live talking and the real-time events that they're going to want to watch back, you have to choose in the moment. Does this need to be slowed down? Does it serve the story better if I slow this down? If it does, then slow it down. If it doesn't, then don't. Don't do it just because you can. That's the first step of messing up your story. Number 3, and I know I sound like a broken record, but you have to be intentional with your shot selection. Okay, you are building a story. This is not something that happens by mistake. In some circumstances, I'm sure that you can accidentally build a cool story capturing a live event. But if you're going to be great and you're going to really, excel and be different than what else is out there on the market, you have to be intentional and you have to build a story on purpose. You have to mean to do it. It's not something that you're most times just going to accidentally create a good story. And what I mean by being intentional with your shot selection is only press the record button when you are in love with whatever is on your screen. If you don't love it, there's no reason to press record. At least I don't. We don't really work in a business where the more raw footage you have, the better you're going to be perceived, or the better product you're going to have. More raw footage just leads to more time and more wasted creativity that you could have had. Like I said, you want the freedom, you want that creativeness to be able to make a great product. And just recording everything is not the way to do that. You want to be very intentional. If you compose a shot and you don't love it, move to the next one. If you do compose a shot, compose it quickly. Compose it creatively and discreetly. Capture it and then move forward. There's no reason to just stand there and keep recording 2, 3, 4 minutes of video at one time. And I've seen this. The way I do it is my shots, I know, based on what I do, are usually about 3, maybe 5 seconds long at the most. I may have had a few outliers in there, but generally 3 to 5 seconds is going to be my range. So I know when I'm recording, record 6 to 7 seconds. Then I can cut off the camera shake if there is any from pressing record or from moving, something like that. But that gives me plenty to use in post, and there's no reason to record additional footage in that moment. So it's very important that you be intentional with your shots. You have to choose what you need to shoot and what wastes your time. And I promise that's going to be a giant step forward in your shoot to edit process to give you a great product and more creative and be able to build a story that means more and can get you higher paying customers. Number 4 comes in after being intentional with your shot selection about what to shoot. So at this point, you should know your brand and you should know how you're perceived by your customers, and you should also be able to tell from that the type of shots they're going to be expecting. So if you're known as the person who always gets great drone footage, then you should probably get great drone footage because you have an eye for it. If you're known as a person who can capture those most candid moments that really hit home and make the audience cry, then you should make sure to capture those kind of moments. Know what fits your brand and know what you need to capture in that way. Also, something I'll add to that is don't be afraid to be flexible. If you get there and you feel, I don't know what to call it, but other than a gut feeling, but if you get into a moment and you see a shot and it makes you want to change directions, don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to go in there and you line this up and you have this flare and it's all working together and you're like, ooh, I think I want to go this way. Don't be afraid to do that. Use that creative power, that creative freedom to make a better story and a better product for your customers. Number 5, do you work from a shot list or a storyboard? In short, no, you never do. Why? Because a shot list or a storyboard in this type of event only serves to handcuff your creativity. Now, if you have a customer or a couple, if they planned out beforehand an elopement or this magnificent event, then a storyboard could possibly be used. You'd have to use it very carefully and very strategically, but in general, no. And shot lists from a couple, certainly not. I don't work from shot lists. I never have, because like I said, they only serve to handcuff you. When your couples hire you, you want them to hire you because you're an expert and because you know what you're doing and you know the type of product and the emotions and the story you can tell and the way you can make them feel. And that's what they're going to hire you for. Don't get stuck into a shot list or something that the client thinks they want. If that's what they're asking for and it's not what you really want, it's probably not your customer and you should probably pass on them. Number 6, and I get this question pretty often, what if I miss something? What if I'm doing this creative process and being very selective with my shots and then something happens and I miss it? Well, that's the nature of this, okay? There are going to be things you're going to miss, but you have to understand that it's okay. You have to stop operating out of fear, in a place of fear, and being afraid to mess up, because any entrepreneur, anyone who's really great at things will tell you that failure is okay. It's okay if you mess up or if you fail and you miss something. That's not the end. The thing is that you learn from each of those mistakes and what you should do in the next circumstance. But I always advocate never operating out of a place of fear in your creative process, because all that's going to do, just like that shot list, it's going to handcuff you. You're going to end up capturing every moment you can and give no thought to your story. You're going to give no thought to, does this moment, does this clip, does this event, this thing that I'm capturing, really serve to tell the best story I can? But you'll get trapped into the place of, something might happen here, I might miss it, so I need to record all of it. Don't get stuck into that. I said this on a podcast at one point, but in my weddings and in my shoots, there's no must-have shots. My goal is to tell a story, and I decide what that story is. There is no must-have anything unless I decide it's a must-have. Focus on that, be confident, be creative, and I promise you, it'll be okay. Number 7, what are the benefits to shooting to edit? Now, I know I talk a lot about this, but why would you want to shoot to edit instead of capturing everything you can? So, really the benefits are threefold, and I mentioned this at the beginning. It's faster, it's more efficient, and it allows you to be more creative with your story. Okay, so when I say it's faster, I can have a wedding. I know that I can have the film done in 3 to 4 hours when I want to sit down and really devote my time to it. When you shoot to edit, when you get to the editing step of the process, you already know what you're looking for. You already know the story you're going to tell. So none of that additional work is required. No getting selects, no going through all the footage and finding audio that you liked. There's no wading through hours of junk because it's not necessary, because you took the time beforehand to edit in your mind and in your style before the footage ever gets to your computer. And it makes it much faster and much easier to tell a coherent story every single time. The next benefit is that it's just more efficient. As people who run our own businesses and who have to find time to do so many things, your time is valuable. Don't waste it sitting here wading through stuff that you have no need to do. Don't make it harder on yourself than it already is. Running a business, having a family and social life and all these things that you want to do, take time. Don't waste it doing something that with just a few preventative measures, you could save that time for yourself down the road. It's more efficient, and then you can spend that additional time with your family, with your friends, selling to more customers, finding more clients. There's just so many things you could use that time for, and there's no real reason to waste it. And lastly, it tells a better story. When you're intentional with everything you do, and it has a purpose, and it's on purpose, the story will always be better. You've never watched a movie and they accidentally made it great. Okay, so while no, we're not storyboarding and we're not shot listing like you would a movie, but if you're intentional in your capture and in your creative process, the likelihood that you tell a really good story is much better than if you just hope something accidentally happens to you. The way I like to explain it is this. Imagine you took a bag, okay, and you put a bunch of like Legos inside of it, right? And you shake it up and you throw it out on the table. What are the odds that it's going to be something magnificent? Probably zero. I would bet that it's probably none. There's no odds at all that you're going to shake up those Legos and they're going to come out as a fully formed, magnificent piece of art or Lego building, whatever you want to call it. But much like that, if you instead looked at those Legos beforehand, decided what you wanted to build, and were intentional with every block placement, it's going to be a better structure. It's going to be more creative. It's all going to be all around better. So trust me when I say this. Follow these 7 steps. Shoot to edit. Watch not only your life get easier, but your videos get better, your customers get happier, and your wallet gets fuller. All of this came out of some questions in the group, and actually got a message from someone else asking me, could I please explain shoot to edit? So hopefully this answers your questions. If you need anything else, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching.
We could write an endless story through the struggle